I'm Scott and I'm reviewing two chicken sandwiches from 7-Eleven and the Family Mart. Which one's gonna win? There has been a huge influx of high protein foods in Japan over the past couple of years. I'm going to be reviewing these sandwiches here, which are basically very similar. It's a bread roll, it's got chicken, boiled egg and some chili sauce. As you can see, they look almost the same, but they taste a wee bit different. The 7-Eleven one claims to have 25.9 grams of protein per serving. And the Family Mart one has a little bit less with 23.1 grams. So it's very impressive. So I'm going to break down my comparison into 4 parts. We'll look at the bread roll, the chili sauce, the boiled egg, and of course the chicken. So let's take a wee bit of a closer look at these, starting off with this one that I got from the 7-Eleven. So it comes in this nice little package. It says tomato, spice and chili sauce with loads of protein. They're really pushing this protein thing. It's a nice handy size. It's not too big and it's not too small, and it's got good weight to it, as I always say. Now, opening these can sometimes be a bit problematic, so I thought I'd point that out to you there. And it just slips out. Ooh, look at that. It just slips out there. Ho ho! And look at the color of those eggs. Aren't they lovely and rich? And the bread is nice and firm. The eggs are not too hard, but not too soft. And you get a good thick piece of chicken. And you can see the chili sauce nestling in behind there. Now, when I cut it in half to give you a bit of a cross section here, you can also see that it's jam-packed all the way through. It's got loads of sauce on it, which can only be a good thing. And plenty of chicken. The filling, you can't argue with the amount of filling in them. Nicely balanced. So when I dismantled it and put it all together, you can see you get maybe about 4 and maybe 4.5 pieces of chicken, and that's all the chili sauce which is on the bread roll. You can see they don't skimp on it. Okay, so that was the 7-Eleven one that you just watched. Now we're going to take a closer look at the one from Family Mart. So the packaging is almost the same. The size is almost the same as well. It also has a fair weight to it. But this one is a little bit tricky to open. I wanted to really point that one out. You pull this little kind of thing here and see, you go. It looks almost the same. The structure is just the same as well. It's almost a carbon copy, isn't it? The egg in this one is also really nicely cooked. The chicken has got plenty of chicken. You can see it's a bit crumblier there, a little bit tender. The sauce is also a little bit moist compared to the 7-Eleven version. And if I cut it in half, you can see just like in the other one from 7-Eleven, it is chock-a-block full of goodies. Look at that. It's so full of tasty stuff in there. Look at that. And the sauce. Oh, it looks so rich, doesn't it? So all laid out in all its glory. So when I dismantled this one, it looked very similar. The amount of chicken was probably about the same. But as you can see, the tenderness of the chicken is also looking a bit different as well. And as you can see here, the sauce looks slightly different too. I'll talk about that later. Okay, so first, what we're going to look at is the bread roll. So the bread roll itself, by squeezing it just like this, I can tell the bread roll which comes with the 7-Eleven version is much firmer. It feels denser. It feels like it's able to hold everything a bit better. Let's taste it. Take off a little piece of bread. I taste a slight saltiness with it. I was expecting it to be kind of sweet, you know, like a kind of a hot dog bun, but it's actually a little bit salty, and the texture is quite dry. It's not so moist. But yeah, it holds its shape much better. So all in all, the bread is not as sweet as I expected, but it holds its shape really well. Let's compare that to, you can see here, this is the Family Mart one. So it's much squidgier. If you go like this, you know, it stays all squidged in like that. Do you know what I mean? But the other one, it kind of bounces back. So this one is much squidgier. Do you know what I mean by squidgier? So you can feel it's kind of moist. It kind of like all the the fillings kind of like all kind of still like fall into it, into the shape. So it's very moist and very kind of squidgy, and I don't know how to describe that. Okay. The taste is quite different. This bread is a little bit sweeter, and you can taste the kind of the flour a little bit more. So this one, I don't know, it tastes kind of more like a hot dog bun rather than this one. The 7-Eleven one tastes more like kind of typical bread, but the Family Mart one tastes a little bit sweeter. It's more tender, and yeah, basically it's more sweet and kind of squidgy. The chili sauce in the 7-Eleven one is much drier. So the one in the Family Mart one is much more wet, it's more moist. This one is much drier, but I think this one says on the packet it's made from a non-meat products. I guess they're doing it to save costs, or I don't know, to up the protein or something. But if you take a look at the actual, can you see that? So it's actually pretty thick. Let's give it the taste test. So it's chili sauce, but it's basically spaghetti sauce. Or like a kind of a chili con carne. A chili con carne, maybe that's what the best way to describe it. And it's dry, so because this is a sandwich, the drier one means it keeps its shape easier and it doesn't like spill off or anything. So the taste itself, it's not too spicy at all. It's just kind of a meaty, tomatoey. It's not going to overpower the taste of the chicken or the egg. So I think they've made it that way to make it so that it fits nicely with the other ingredients. So let's compare that to the Family Mart one. Oh, I can already feel this is so much softer and squidgier. So how do I get in here? Okay, let's get a little bit of the old. So the sauce in this one is much, much wetter and squidgier. Everything's squidgy about this sandwich. Let's try. Again, this is sweeter. The chili sauce they've used here, it's much runnier, it's much sweeter. I feel it's got a more of a tomatoey taste, or should I say tomatoey taste for our American audience. It's more like a sauce. This is like more like a chili. It's like a chili con carne, but this one is more like a kind of a tomato sauce with a bit of chicken there, which could be good, could be bad. Depends on the combination of the bread and the whole thing together. I think we're going to see what the whole package looks like when we're going to get a full bite of the whole thing. But basically, Family Mart sauce is much runnier and a bit sweeter and more tomatoey.
どうもありがとう, Mr. Robot.
So let's focus on the eggs. In both sandwiches, you get exactly the same amount of egg. It's 3/4 of an egg. Why didn't they give us just a whole egg? I guess they didn't have enough space. But looking at the one, this is the 7-Eleven one. The eggs look absolutely fantastic. Take a close look at that, eh? Perfectly cooked. They're more orangey than the Family Mart ones, and they look just like they're so perfectly cooked. I'm just going to go straight in with my fingers. Excuse my fingers, sorry. That is the perfect egg. I have absolutely no complaints. Oh, magnificent. Okay, now comparing that to the one from the Family Mart, you can see this egg looks a little more yellow. Can you get a closer look there? Looks a little more yellow, but it looks equally delicious. So let's see. The firmness, it looks exactly the same. I'm going to go straight in with this one here. Definitely a little bit harder. I think they've been cooked for a tiny fraction longer, so you can feel, probably because the sauce is very runny, the chicken looks a bit more tender, so probably they've decided to give a bit more structure to the sandwich by making the eggs a tiny bit harder than the ones in the 7-Eleven. But the flavour is fantastic, just a tiny bit tougher, should I say, than 7-Eleven one.
お弁当いかがでしょうか
Now, on first impressions, the chicken from the 7-Eleven one looks much firmer. It looks a little bit more tough, shall I say. It also seems slightly thicker cut, but it's not really. And I think this is maybe roast chicken compared to the one in the Family Mart one, which is maybe more steamed chicken or boiled chicken, because you can see on the outside it has kind of a brown tinge to it. Can you see there? Compared to the one from the Family Mart, which is completely white. So that could affect the texture and also the flavor. So let's go straight in. I'm just going to excuse my fingers. I'm just going to go for a piece of the chicken. Here goes. It's got a bit of a bite to it, and you can taste, it tastes kind of more like roast chicken compared to like your usual so-called salad chicken, which they sell a lot of here in Japan. It tastes more chickenish, more a kind of a flavor of the meat. It tastes like something you would take off like a rotisserie chicken or something. It's got more punch to it. It's got more kind of a meatiness to it. So I think the concept of the 7-Eleven sandwich is to make everything a little bit firmer and more kind of, I don't know, real, should I say. But they've made the egg that little bit softer. Interesting. Okay, moving on to the chicken from the Family Mart one. Definitely, it's a different ball game here. The chicken here looks so much more tender, and it started to crumble up. So when I was taking these pieces of chicken out to put them on the plate earlier to show you in the video, the little pieces of chicken started to crumble up. It was so tender, and it looked much moister. Can you see in there? Maybe it's difficult to see on the camera, but let me just take a piece out here so I can show you. See, I took that piece and it just broke off the big piece. Can you see there? It's still a nice thick piece. So let's give it a taste test. Much more tender. Much more tender. I think Family Mart are using what they call salad chicken, which I think is steamed, and it's also got some herbs on the outside which you can really taste. So this chicken seems, I don't know, more suitable for a sandwich, but the whole package of this sandwich is softness, tenderness, and easy to eatness. If you know what I mean. So it goes nice with the runnier sauce, the softer bun, and the eggs are a little bit firmer, but the total package, it gives it a really nice balance.
すごいですね。
Cleanse the old palate and all that. So I'm going to take a bite first of the 7-Eleven one. I'm going to have a piece of chicken, egg, everything in one bite, okay? Here goes. Okay, first impressions. This has got a lot of eating to it. It's by no means a sandwich for the faint-hearted. The bread is actually much more filling than you would imagine, and it was slightly dry. Not too dry in a bad way, but because the sauce is quite congealed, it's kind of all kind of stuck together. The chicken and the egg and the bread with a kind of a slightly drier, heavier sauce makes it feel like it's kind of dry. I needed a drink after, let me just say that. However, having said all that, the combination is lovely. You can really taste the chicken, and the way it all combines together is really good. The sauce is not overpowering, but I can taste the bread. So I can realize why they made this kind of like a saltier bread, because it kind of binds everything all together. Even though it was slightly dry and a little thicker, it's a nice, well-balanced sandwich. And for people who are looking to get their protein, I can't think of a better way than getting your protein from a sandwich like this. The Family Mart one. Okay, I'm going to take a big bite of this one too, and then I'll give you my verdict and compare. Okay, here's the verdict. This one is much easier to eat. It's got slightly less filling, so as I said, the bread is a little bit thinner, but I like the sweetness and the runniness of the tomato chili sauce. I think it goes really nice in a sandwich like this. The chicken is much more tender, and even though it doesn't have quite a stronger flavor of chicken, it's a bit more of a mild chicken, which is why I think they put the herbs, because it's probably steamed chicken, so they needed to add a little extra herbs and make the sauce a little bit sweeter and a little bit more runny and a little bit more tomatoey to bring it all together. So from what's left of it, I'm going to give this 7-Eleven version 3 out of 5. This one, which is the Family Mart one, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I'm going to give this 4 stars out of 5. Yeah. So if I was to choose which one I'm going to get in the future, probably I would choose the Family Mart version because it was tastier and a little bit easier to eat. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.